Hey folks, I'm Mike Murtis with GamerLogic.net, and today we're doing a review of Hardcore Gaming 101 presents Castlevania. So one of the biggest shockers to me is that Konami has never released an official Castlevania collection book, kind of detailing the story of the original Castlevania all the way to the current games. There's tons and tons and tons of information, artwork. You could get interviews with the musicians of Castlevania, the developers of Castlevania. There's a huge market for it, but for whatever reason, Konami has never published anything. Now, that might be because a lot of the original assets were maybe lost in the quake that hit Japan in, I think, the mid to late 90s. But nevertheless, people who love Castlevania would love to see a collection of Castlevania works. Well, because we're out of luck with Konami, thankfully, Hardcore Gaming 101 has released their own book that covers almost everything there is about Castlevania, and it is pretty awesome. Now, one of the things that I love about this book is that it is put together by Kurt Kaleda, who is of the Castlevania Dungeon. Now, for those of you who do not know what the Castlevania Dungeon is, this was a website that was put together in the mid-90s and was the de facto place to go for Castlevania stuff. I know this because back in the mid-90s, this was my place I went for any new Castlevania news, MP3s of the soundtracks, you name it. I was obviously a big Castlevania fan, so I was going to go to this place. Now, there's a foreword from Kurt in this book, and he kind of talks about the same thing, how his family, got a brand new computer with a dial-up modem, and he started making his own website. And back in the day, I always thought Kurt was kind of this older guy, maybe someone who was just really working in the game industry and just knew his stuff. He always seemed older to me, but reading the forward in here, you find out that he was only like 15, 16 when he was doing all this stuff, so we're not too far off in age. So it's just very interesting from that aspect, how you perceive somebody. So anyway, let's dive into this book and take a look at it, because it's got a lot of great stuff in here. If you're a Castlevania fan, you're going to want to check it out. Alright, so diving into this awesome book, we got some customized art here. Of course, we got all the different characters from the Castlevania saga, Dracula, of course, in the back here. And let's just get right into this here. And you got the foreword from Kurt here on the next page. And essentially this book covers everything up to starting with Castlevania, a lot of the side games as well as the portable games, just pretty much everything. And opening this up, they start out with the original, so you get some screenshots of the game, you get a description of what the game is about, how it kind of stands up to the test of time, the Japanese cover, the North American release, as well as release date information, which is pretty awesome. They talk about other ports and foreign versions and some of the changes throughout the years to any reports or re-releases of Castlevania. You got a really cool kind of evolution of Simon Belmont throughout the years through different games as well as different artwork comparisons, which is really cool. You can also see the difference in some of the ports here, like Vampire Killer, which was a completely different game and actually took a lot of elements, or a lot of the elements from Vampire Killer were actually moved over to Castlevania 2, which is pretty interesting. Of course, you get a lot of the original lore here. Here's the Nintendo Power issue of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest that gave kids nightmares and parents called in. Some of the trading cards and stuff that actually came with Castlevania 2, the Japanese version. But just so much stuff in here. Regional difference, all this stuff is just very cool. And actually, one of the few things that I found very interesting that I never knew about was something about Super Castlevania 4. And that was that the beta version for it was very, very different, or at least had a lot of different features and stages that never made it into the final game. And they actually talk about it right here. Back before Super Castlevania 4 was released, a promotional video was made that showed the game during an early development stage with areas, enemies, and other things not found in the final product. Also note the over-enthusiastic announcer. Now you guys can actually look up this video on YouTube. Someone has published it, and the video is hilarious. The announcer's like, cross a bridge, through a room. Like, it's really, really cheesy, but I never knew about it, and if it wasn't for this book, I probably would have never found out about it, actually, and I'm a huge Castlevania fan. So yeah, they cover all the different ports. One of my favorites here, you got Castlevania, Dracula X, all the different artworks here. So if you're not a huge Castlevania fan, or maybe you've played some of the later Castlevania games and you really don't know about the back history of Castlevania, this is what you're going to want to check out, because it's really going to fill you in on everything you missed in the previous games and some of the relationships of the characters. Even information like the different ports of Castlevania Symphony of the Night is amazing. So there you have it, folks. This book is absolutely awesome. If you're a Castlevania fan and you don't know about this, go get this off Amazon right now. There is a digital version available, and I have been picking up digital versions of books lately, but for something like this, this is huge, and being the only collection of Castlevania stuff, I had to have a hard copy of it. So if you're a Castlevania fan, check it out, and also check out hardcoregaming101.net, a fantastic website with all sorts of different great stuff. Highly recommended. That's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching.